Thank you. I lost track of the time. I didn't have time to do it. Thank you. Les McCurdy, everybody.
Dwight Slade, everybody.
Thank you.
Would you like the chair or the stool?
I always like a stool sample, Les. You know that. That's part of my thing.
Very nice. What the hell is that?
I think we just lifted off. Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's our turn.
All right.
Hey,
Here's you guys. What a killer Thursday crowd. Thank you for
That's
coming
right.
out on a weekend or a weekday.
Oh, wait a minute. they're going to start with a question.
Well, Oprah,
Well, you know what? I don't mind that we let the art. Oh, by the way, for people who are at home tuning into the podcast, you got to catch the last few minutes of Dwight's show. Dwight Slade here with us, our headliner this week, and usually I ask a few questions and open up to the audience. But you know what? You have a question. Fire away. And I'll say it so that people can hear online. Is it Dwight's first time here in Sarasota?
What was the question?
it is not my first time in Sarasota. I've been to this club. This is my, I believe, good Lord, I think it's fourth time I've been here. But thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. And I love this club. I adore this club, and it's unique in the world. Trust me. Trust me.
Yes, it is unique in the world. And in saying that, playing comedy clubs all over the country.
All over the world, my friend.
All over the world. All right. Sarasota this was in the paper the other day, it's one of the oldest communities in the United States, in the world.
Old meaning like
older average age.
Oh!
I don't know if you know.
I wouldn't know that.
Yes.
You know what it is that Sarasota is now, it's sort of like, if you go to a playground and watch the kids, and then you come here and watch the old people at Publix, it's the same thing. Trying to get the cart out of the thing, it's just like 4 hours. And you look over, where's the car? Where'd we park the car? I mean, not you people, you're active and you're out. I mean, I'm not talking about you people. Okay.
Now, when you go play most comedy venues in the country, what's the average age of the audience that you're in front of? Most places.
You generally only see. Well, it's getting older actually. Less because I think that the people who are entering retirement age now grew up with stand-up as a viable entertainment option, and so they're continuing to go to comedy clubs. It's a very cheap, entertaining way of coming out and having a great time, I think, and as you get older, you enjoy it more.
So with our crowd, because our crowd here in Sarasota, the average comedy crowd here, I would say, is 40 to 60. Is that average around the country?
No. Yeah, I mean, yes, 40 to 60 is average.
Really? That is
more 40 to 50, but maybe 30 to 40.
That's what I would more think.
Anyway.
More thing. And what, since we're on this line of questioning, what do you think makes a good comedy room that these people would know? I mean, what's the difference? Because there is a difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you with a brief story of going over to the UK. I went over in 2003, did the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and from that I've been going over to the UK every year for like a tour, just to do comedy clubs over there. And I'm sitting ready to go on, and there's another British comic there who's from Britain, and he goes, man, I would really love to come to the US and do stand-up. And I was like, and of course I'm thinking like, why? I'm thinking of all the shitty one-nighters I've done all over this town, every truck stop and empty lizard stairs I've had to be in, and the empty rooms in New York and LA with the jaded comics. And I'm like, why would you want to come to America and do stand-up? And he goes, because that's where it's from. And I realized that I was involved in a very American art form, that this is a wholly classical American art form of stand-up. And then it started to make sense to me. Of course it would be. One person on stage telling everyone else the way things should be run is classically American. And the rest of the world is envious of it. And it's almost like stand-up in America is so much different than it is all over the world, in Australia and the UK. Is because it started here, and it's like jazz. It's like this wholly American thing. Comedy clubs in other parts of the world, everywhere else, do not have the individuality that they have. And I'm not saying this just because you're standing here, but they're just not club owners around in the UK and Canada and Australia where there are other comedy clubs. They're all chains. They're all very corporate. They all do it as a business. And in America is the only place where you get comedy club owners that own the building, or not own the building, but they own the business and they own the booking and they make the club themselves. It's individual. It is a classically American small business, and a very creative small business too, very inventive, and that's why I enjoy coming here, is because you're always trying to push. What other club has cutouts of the owner at the entrance, for God's sake?
Exactly. So you spoke of Oregon. You did not grow up in Oregon. You grew up in Texas, correct?
Yeah, I lived in Georgia, Connecticut, and then in Texas. My dad was on the run for the law. No, he was. But I started doing stand-up when I was very young in Houston, Texas, as part of a comedy team. Much you started as a comedy team.
That's
also?
right. You started, and what year was that you started? Let me kind of backtrack a little bit, because I think it's interesting for people. How old were you when you started in comedy?
My friend and I did an open mic when we were 14. We were 14
Wow.
years old. Snuck out of my parents' house and got a friend to drive us to an open mic, and we went up and then we got addicted to it, and then finally our parents discovered, why are they up in their room so studying till 11 at night without a word? It's fascinating.
So you really never had other jobs?
I went to college, and I just was always doing stand-up, on the side, But clearly I'm trying to get up for an 8 o'clock organic chemistry final, and I'd just been out at comedy till 11:30. It's just not going to work out.
Right. And you started in a comedy team with as I did, in the 80s, in the early 80s, which is when the comedy boom really happened. That's when clubs really started opening up all over the country. And you're with a comic that's fairly well known by a lot of people, Bill Hicks.
Right. Bill and I, how many people heard of Bill? Anybody? Yeah, a few people? He's
Six people have heard of him.
He's big in the UK. Which is very true.
Very famous, yes.
But he's a brilliant comedian who's sort of well regarded, and but we started out young, and then it became quickly apparent that Bill was brilliant, and we just went in different directions. Plus, my dad got transferred in his job, and that usually breaks up every comedy team. Martin and Lewis and everyone gets.
We were talking about earlier. Our comedy team, Ken and I, we broke it up 2 years into touring. Because I told him, I said, I know how we can double our money next year. Break this son of a bitchin' team up, because they're not going to pay us double. So from there, you went from Texas. You went out to Los Angeles. Is that correct?
My dad. It was true. We were I was 10th grade when I lived in Texas, and then my dad bought a business in Oregon. I moved to Oregon. Then when Bill was 19, we both moved to L.A. And we were both stand-ups, and then the comedy boom happened, and we both realized we were going to hit the road. And my friend got on the phone with me, who lived in Portland, and he said, "You should come out to Portland because there's open mics everywhere." And I thought, why am I sitting in Los Angeles waiting for a 3-minute spot on a Tuesday when I can go and perform every single night in this new, cool little town in the Northwest? And then met my ex-wife and had 2 children, and that took 20 years. So.
Kids are grown now. You're a single guy out on the road. Tell them about the groupies, the comedy groupies. Wow.
Well, 2 things. Number
one,
women don't go to comedy clubs to find men. They go to have a good time with their lady friends. And 2, my act drives single women away. It's just like when you're up there and you're doing this, it's not like, it doesn't make women hot. when you're doing lizard impressions, and but that's all right. That's, I'm not in this business to score
Sure
a
you
lot
are.
of tail.
Sure you are. Sure you are. What is your process to put a bit together? Do you have something that is consistent, a consistent structure?
Failure, repeated failure. Well, what's interesting is, I'm sure you know this, is that your process changes and evolves over time, and you have to pay attention to that, or you wind up a dinosaur. You wind up doing the same stuff you've always done, never coming up with anything creative or different. So you have to keep your ear open to what's different in your process. And so my process is that I listen to tapes of the show, or generally I walk around with an audio recorder on the iPhone or Android or whatever, and then if something strikes my fancy, I go and I talk it out on the bit. I talk it out, and then as soon as I think I'm done talking the bit out, I keep talking about it, and then keep talking about it more, and then a little bit more. And the reason is because that's where you find your gem, is when you keep pushing it, and then I put it away for a week, and I go back and listen to it, and then if it seems like it has a kernel there, then I'll start to try it. But I'm more auditory when it comes to writing. I'm not really sit down and write jokes. I'm more auditory and how it sounds.
The animals. How did you get onto the animals?
I don't, it was weird. It was like last time I was here last year was the first time I started, pushing myself. But what it was is that you and I talked last night about playing to your strengths. It was you were talking about the Colby personality test. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but it's an online test you can do, and Les knows more about it than I do. But
it identifies your strengths, and what you find is that we're all born a certain way, and it's not like you develop a certain way. You're born a certain way, and you can take this test. You know what I'm saying. You're born a certain way.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's all right. She really knows. All right, come on. Let's tell a story. All right, so, but you're born a certain way, and what is wild is that you can take the Colby test, which is broken down into 4 strengths, or 4 personality basic traits. And you can take it when you're 15, you can take it when you're 35, you can take it when you're 65. It won't change. It will not change. Myers-Briggs, one is based on... Colby is based on doing part of the brain. Myers-Briggs is based on the feeling part of the brain. If you want to feel my brain, you go right ahead, baby.
Siesta.
You go right ahead. So, in that being, we talked about a proven fact is one of the worst things you can do in your life is try to strengthen a weakness, because it's a waste of time. Focus on your strength, and then find somebody else to do the accounting. Find somebody else to mow your grass. Find somebody else to do the shit that you ain't good at. Don't try to do this stuff, Well, so that being said,
right.
How the fuck did you get into the animals?
Well, it goes back to an odd thing in my personal life is that I when I first started doing stand-up, was with this guy, Bill Hicks, who is largely considered one of the most, or after Lenny Bruce, like one of the most brilliant American stand-ups has ever been. And he's regarded that all over the world. And being his comedy partner and in the same field is like showing up to a Hendrix memorial with a ukulele. It's just, you're constantly never going to measure up to a dead genius hero, ever. And so I've realized that I've kind of used that as a measure, and I've always kind of thought, well, I've always kind of, I didn't know this, but I was kind of playing to that aspect of myself, which was I want to be more like Bill, or like, because every comic wants to be like Bill, because Bill's brilliant. But then I realized that my strengths are not that. Ever since I've been a kid, I've just been one of those loud, goofy, lanky comics, and who I like to do goofy shit to make myself laugh. That's how I laugh. And so when I started doing the animals, I was like, I suddenly unleashed this whole part of myself that was like, I remember this guy. He was the 9-year-old kid that likes to goof around with his friends. And so I realized, why am I trying to push against my strengths and try to get on TV with this type of material, or pursue a comedy special with this type of attitude, when this is me? So just be fucking me.
Exactly. And I hope everybody does that. I think that's one of the greatest things you can do in your life. You can applaud that if you want. I hope you applaud that for yourself. All right. When you got into comedy, well, when you got to the point as a headliner, as a seasoned headliner, you've been doing it for a while, and that's the point where you really now can focus on your career. Did you set goals? Did you set a structure? Did you visualize a path towards a certain kind of success, or was it more random?
It was panic. There was no. The thing is that I decided I was going to be a comic right when my wife came up and said, "I'm pregnant," and we were married. We were going to have kids, but we just didn't expect to have them so quickly. And so I realized that I had to support this small family by being a stand-up. I just started headlining, and I thought, well, I got enough, so I just went out and said, I'm going to be a headliner, and I'm going to earn money. And it was always just panic. It was always, I got to get work, and which I guess for me was perfect because I'm a very lazy, unmotivated person. And if I didn't have children that were like, when are you going to feed me, Daddy? I would have just waited and, smoked pot and been in any number of headliners, but I was in a constant panic.
I think so many of us get into this business. I talked about this to a great comic, Ron Bennington, from New York. And we were talking about the fact that, who's very, very successful now. And we talking about the fact who you also don't know. But we were talking about the fact that we all got into this business because we didn't want to work. We didn't want a job. But at the end of the day, if you become successful at it, and if you become very successful at it, it becomes a hell of a job. I'll kind of finish with this. What you've been in this since 1980, as I have, so a long time, and we've seen this whole business transition in the past 10 years since the World Wide Web has opened up. It's really changed a lot. Mm-hmm. But now we're at a point of our lives where we've been doing this for 30 years, and now we're moving into the senior years of our life, whether we like it or not. Where do you see your future?
It's like an
where
intervention.
do you see your future as a comedian evolving in the next 10 or 15, 20 years?
Well, it's a kind of a good news, bad news thing, because the good news is that stand-up as a craft and an art form has never had a higher profile in the U.S. People are making huge money doing stand-up. You go to Las Vegas, and 30% of the billboards in Las Vegas are stand-up comedians, and that's large, big dollars. However, there are no more sitcoms on the air. There's never. Whitney has the only new sitcom on the air, and that's only because they couldn't get Chelsea Handler to do a sitcom. So the sitcom for the comic is no longer the holy grail. That was sort of what everyone was gearing towards. You do television, then you do film, and there's no longer that. So that's the bad news. Is there's no prize. There's no one going to find you in a club and go, "You're going to be a star, kid. We got a sitcom for you." But the good news is that you can now find a handful of followers, and someone did the math for me. It said that if you can find 200 people in 20 cities, 200 people in 20 cities that will pay $10 to come see you twice a year, you will never have to be on television or work, and you can do that now through Facebook and YouTube, and you can connect with people through social media, and suddenly you can find 200 people in 20 cities that will come and pay $10 to see you once a year, and screw TV. You don't need it anymore. You don't need that. It's a tremendous opportunity for a lot of stand-ups.
And not only, that crosses over, exactly what you said crosses over to every human being in whatever their gift is and whatever their strength is, and that's the beauty of the World Wide Web, is that whatever you do, if you can put it out there and find that 200 people in 20 cities, you can make a livelihood and do what you love and do your gift. And there's nothing better than that. And that's what we love about what we do, is that we're able to do that, and it's our great gift. And for us and for you guys too, we hope. Now we'll just take a few minutes if anyone has it, and you can bring up the house lights some there, Brad. Any questions at all for Brad or myself? Yes, right here. And I'll repeat them so that the people who are watching online can hear them. How do you handle hecklers? I think we saw that tonight, didn't we? Wasn't she a constant heckler for you right here?
Whoa, that almost came out wrong, boy. No, well, I tend to invite the audience. Look, you know, you do this as long as Les and I are, and you have an arsenal, and you have lights and a microphone. They don't, and so you invite it. The hard thing is it's fun to have a heckler that is engaging in the show and is not stepping on the show. But when someone wants just to drain the energy out of the room and it's all about me and becomes a personality thing, they're just generally ruining the show. But you can step it up. There are like 4 different degrees of heckler lines. There's one where it's like you're just kind of getting on your case, and then the second one, then it goes all the way up to DEFCON 4, you know, which is I don't come down to truck stops and kick dicks out of your mouth when you're trying to work, do I?
Yep. Yep, that's one of them.
Right,
and I'll tell you what, here's something that comics are very protective of their material, radically protective of their material, because if we don't protect it, nobody will. But I've always found that in the comedy community, if it's a heckler line, you can have it.
That's true.
All heckler lines are open to everybody to use. You know, we it's the way we protect ourselves as a fraternity. And so, yeah. And you had a question.
Yeah, now, is it, you get $100 for the night and free Guinness?
Do you get $100 for the night and free Guinness?
You have to pay McCurdy for the...
Does he have to pay me for the Guinness that I brought up here that he didn't order?
Les's club is very generous. They treat you like family. The kind of comic that works here, you have to be a certain type of really funny comic that... I think I can say this. You don't have to depend so much on vulgarity because it's not necessary. And once you become, it's more about becoming part of the family, you know.
And we do treat our comics like family.
It's
and one of the
it's
things,
drink. It's
yes. And one of the things I like about that, treating comics like family, is that if I need a loan, I can go to Dwight. I can go right to Dwight and several other comedians I can go to. Yes. Absolutely. Is there anything else? Yes, over here. Do you find that your material changes geographically as to what part of the country or what part of the world that you're in? Or is it the same? Mm-hmm.
True. Well, I have found this. You can talk faster in the Northeast. And I enjoy that because I'm a hyperkinetic guy. So in the Northeast, you don't ever have to slow it down. But I also find that in the Midwest or certain parts of the South that you do want to talk slower, but it also affords you the opportunity to slow things down and find humor where you didn't expect it. And that's one thing I like about the Blue Collar Comedy Tour is that they really showed a certain type of humor where you just slow it down and you can let the laughs happen. You don't have to barrel over it, you know. So, but yeah, so basically, but the U.S. does have its own brand of comedy. I don't do well in the U.K., even though they always bring me back, and I just don't do well because I scream a lot and I'm loud. And in the U.K., they think that I've literally lost my mind. They're like, you get reviewed over in the U.K. I have stacks of reviews from the U.K. because they're a very literate society over there, and literally stacks of reviews. Over here have never been reviewed by any press anywhere. And they always say the same thing. Dwight Slade is a very angry young man. Dwight Slade is a man on a mission. And it's like, it's part of the act. And you realize that the UK humor never screams outside of Monty Python, which is farcical, but the UK is not about screaming. And in the US, we have this great tradition of screaming, about letting our guts out, you know. Kurt Cobain screamed, and Sam Kinison, and Gilbert Gottfried, and Dane Cook screams, and we have a great tradition of screamers. And of course it would be, because that's what America is. America's about, you know, it's about leading the charge and screaming. And so geographically, yes.
Anything else? Great.
Can we go, please?
Yes, we
Please,
can.
Can we
I
go?
have to go to the bathroom so terribly bad. Thank you so much, all, for coming out.